Hey everybody, what's going on? I put out a video a couple of days ago on artifact storage management, how to go through and decide if your artifacts were worth keeping or not. And, I was a little worried about putting out a longer video, and I was a little concerned that it was a little too rambly, and I had a lot of concerns about that video, but you guys really seem to have gotten some out of it. The feedback has been great. You enjoyed the actual guide part of the video, and then the longer portion after the video. So if you haven't seen that and you're interested, I'll put it at the end of this video. But I figured we would do a similar style video for this question, which is this champ good? How to decide if a champion is good? Because I get asked that as much, if not more, than the artifact question. It's really hard to come into a game like this without some experience and analyze whether or not a champ is good. So I've done my best to consolidate this down into some quick tips that you can consider and how to approach them. So again, I'm going to do my best to not be rambly. I'm going to do my best to simplify this as much as possible. We'll do a quick little guide portion of the video, and then what we'll do after that, for anybody that wants to stick around, is I'll go through and we'll just look at a bunch of different champs, and I'll analyze them as though it's my first time seeing them, okay? And let you see the process, and hopefully seeing it a few times will help you understand how to approach it and how to make these decisions for yourself, because it's important to be able to do. You don't only want to use the champs that everybody else says are good. If everybody did that, then we would never find out that there are other champs that are good, right? There's a lot of sleepers in this game that a lot of people don't know about. There's some that probably no one knows about yet. There's always meta shifts and things like that. So let's talk about how to do this. The first thing you want to do when you get a champ is look at their stats. That's going to be where you get your first impressions, right? What type of champ are they? What's their affinity? And what are their stats? Now, real quick note on this up here, this champion type. Don't put a champion in a box based on what this says. This is just information to let you know generally what to expect out of their kit and how their stats are going to change as you level them up and rank them up and ascend them. I'm glad that truck decided to start backing up and beeping or whatever right when I pressed record. You gotta love New York City, man. Don't put a champ in a box based on this. A great example of this would be Fushan. He's an attack champ. I don't have him built like an attack champ. I've got him built kind of hybrid. And for a long time, I was using him in every single piece of content in this game. He was on my clan boss team, my arena team, every dungeon team I had. And I had him on a hybrid build, and he was doing his job famously. He's an incredible champion. I love my Fushan. But it's because I didn't stick him in a box of an attacker because this says attack. So this is just to get an idea of what's going on in their kit, how they're going to scale, how their stats are going to change, what types of things they may have in their kit. So again, that's very important. Don't put a champion in a box based on this. So when you come down and look at their base stats, the first thing you want to look at is speed. As you all know by now, speed kills. Speed is the most important stat in the game. And almost every single champion in the game needs to be fast. That's just the way it is. So you want to get an idea of what someone's base speed is. Now, just because someone has low base speed doesn't automatically mean they're bad. And just because someone has good base speed doesn't guarantee that they're going to be good. But it is an important thing to keep in mind in how you're going to use a champ and how you're going to gear them. So average speed in this game, average base speed tends to hover around like 97. 96, 97, 98. 98's on the higher side of the average, I think. But that seems to be where the average is. So anything lower, you're low base speed. Anything higher, you're high. So someone like Rosin, for example, is a great example of someone who has low base speed, but is an incredible champ. Rosin is fantastic. We're going to talk about him in this video. And then someone like Lissandra has really, really high base speed. She's also a fantastic champ. She's not an example of someone who has good base speed and is bad, but she's an example of someone who has even higher than high base speed. If someone's got like, is it Fushan 106? That's high base speed. That's high solid base speed. She's creeping into like ridiculous territory, okay? So get a feel for base speed. Learn how to gauge that quickly. Beyond that, you want to learn how to gauge these other stats in relation to what type of champ they are and what you think you're going to do with them. So I know that most attackers in the game tend to hover around, the decent attackers in the game tend to hover around like 14,000 base HP. So I know that Turval has high base HP. So while I'm not going to focus it, I'm not going to try to get his HP up because of what I'm going to do with him. I know that if I end up with some HP in the substats, it's going to scale better because the base is higher. So you're generally looking to put percentage stats on champions for HP, attack, and defense. And the higher the base, the higher that percentage is going to have an impact, right? So I know that indirectly he's going to end up with decent HP regardless. It's going to be very hard to not put gear on him that has HP in the subs, right? So indirectly he's going to have good HP. I know that his base attack is good. Most rare attackers in the game tend to hover around 1200 to 1300. So I know that at 1500 he's got good base attack. It's going to scale well. Defense not super important on him. I know that it's lower, but it should be. He's an attacker, and whereas someone like Skull Crusher, who's a defense champ, has really, really good base defense. So look at a bunch of different champs of different types, of different rarities, because all those things come into play, and just start to get a feel for where the baseline is on these stats, so that at a quick glance, you can look at Turval and go, he's got really good base HP, his base attack is solid, little low on the base speed, not a big deal. Defense doesn't matter so much on him. That's an important thing to be able to do kind of quickly. So again, the more champs you look at, the more experience you get, the more you'll get an eye for gauging base stats, deciding how easy someone's going to be to build. Now again, just because someone has lower base stats doesn't mean they're bad. It's going to depend on what's in their kit. So let's talk about the kit. He has a first turn weaken. He's got a second skill where he stacks 3 buffs on himself. They're all nice buffs. And he's got a third skill that does damage based on how many buffs he has on himself. So, all of these things considered. Turval is a Void Legendary. He's an attacker. His kit seems to be designed around him doing heavy single target damage. So for what he's designed to do, he's great. He buffs himself. He does damage based on buffs. All his buffs are relevant. I know that with the crit rate buff, I don't have to get him to 100 crit rate. I can get him to 70. He's a good champ. He'll do what he's designed to do. He's not game changing. He doesn't unlock any content. He doesn't make anything possible that wasn't possible before. He's a good champ who does the job he's designed to do. He does it well, and he's fun, right? Good champ. I know some of you are going to go insane that I'm not saying he's amazing. And maybe some of you have seen some examples of him doing some amazing things. You know, I've seen a video of him in clan, not a video, a picture of him, his clan boss damage. His damage alone was like 18 million. But we're talking very niche examples of something, right? A lot of players aren't going to have access to putting something together like that. So he's not really game changing. He's fun. He's interesting. He does his job well. Not a great champ, right? Whereas someone like Rosin has a strip on his first skill. He's got defense break with a weaken on his second skill, so it's basically an amplified defense break. And then here we've got AoE 100% turn meter reduction. That's also an attack. He's a defense champion. His base stats are good. He's got really, really good base defense, low base speed, good HP, decent attack for a defense champ. Scales off of defense on every skill. So we're talking about someone who's bringing very useful debuffs to a fight. Defense champion who scales off defense. So in increasing his survivability, we're also increasing his damage output. Everything he does is useful. You can take him to a lot of different places in the game, and he potentially makes some things possible for you that were not possible before. His crowd control and waves might help you push a little bit deeper in the dungeons. This amplified defense break here may help you nuke some bosses down quicker than maybe you couldn't nuke down before. The buff strip is very useful. Rosin potentially puts you further in the game, whereas Turval is fun to play with, right? So Rosin is the better champ than Turval, even though Turval's the Void Legendary, and you know, arguably he should be better. He's not. Rosin's a better champ. I'll do you one better and say Apothecary's a better champ than Turval. Because let's look at what Apothecary's bringing to a fight. 3 times at random, whatever. Here we've got a single target burst heal on a 2-turn cooldown skilled up. Here we've got a speed buff and a turn meter boost on a 3-turn cooldown skilled up. If we look at his base stats, he's a support. He's got really good base HP, good base defense, very good base speed. He only needs HP and speed. So he's bringing very important utility to a fight, and he needs so little to be good. He has no debuffs, no harmful effects. He needs no accuracy. He needs 2 stats to do his job, and he does his job very well, and his job is very important. He can be a part of any team in the game, okay? He's got a multi-hit, gives him Fire Knight utility. He's good support no matter where you want to take him. Excellent, excellent champ. I think as champions go, he's a better champ than Turval. So yeah, a rare magic champ is better than a void legendary, okay? Just because something's a legendary doesn't automatically make it good. Examples, okay? So base stats, look at their skills, see what they bring to which fight, okay? Some champs are only good for certain things. And that's okay. Some champs only need to be good for certain things. And we'll talk about Outlaw Monk actually here. He's got a chance of giving himself an extra turn. Here he places 2 5% poison debuffs on a target. You can get that down to a 3-turn cooldown. Now here's an example of a champ you don't want to put in. We were talking about don't put him in a box because they're an attack champ. You don't want to build him like an attacker because all you're really going to do with him is clan boss. So you want him to be tanky enough to be around, you want him to be fast enough to get a lot of turns, and you want him to be accurate enough to land these poisons. And that's really all you're going to do with Outlaw Monk, but he's going to do his job extremely well for clan boss. Early game and even mid game, Outlaw Monk can be a pretty crucial staple of a clan boss team. 2 5% poisons every 3 turns, dude's going to pump out some damage for you, okay? So there doesn't have to be a lot in a kit for it to be good. It can be very specific and still be good. You just have to think about what content could this kit be useful in, right? Apothecary, again, is another example of someone who doesn't have to do a lot to be good. All he's doing is turn meter boosting and speed buffing here, and then single target healing here. As a whole, he's only really doing 3 things, but he's doing them really well, he's doing them often, and he requires very little to do all of that, okay? So this is why he's so good. If this skill was on a 5-turn cooldown, his utility goes down quite a bit because now he's not pumping out a heal as often as he was. But the fact you can get it down to a 2-turn cooldown is absurd. So yeah, it's single target, and single target heals are usually a little less desirable, but the fact that he's doing it every turn, and that he's speed buffing himself and turn meter boosting himself, and he has good base speed, he's going to get that skill out a lot more often, right? So it doesn't really matter so much that it's only single target. So analyze the kit, get familiar with baseline base stats, and then think about what debuffs are good for what places. Obviously poisons are good for clan boss. Defense breaks are good everywhere. Attack breaks are pretty useful in most places. Attack buffs are really useful. Speed buffs are really useful. So think about what a champ is seemingly supposed to be designed to do. How well did they do it? He's a support champ. He's clearly supposed to do stuff involving speed, and he's got a heal. He does his job very well. Seeker, pretty much a PvP champ. You're not going to use him much in PvE content. And if we look at his skill, it's a turn meter boost with an attack buff. He's filling 2 very vital roles in an arena cleave composition, which is a team designed to go in, get the first turn, wipe the enemy out in one team, and be done with it. Okay, a turn meter boost and attack buff are 2 very important roles in that, and he's filling both of them. He doesn't need anything but speed. If you want to put accuracy on him, which I did, so that he can land a provoke with this skill, great. Not necessary. It's a nice bonus, but all he needs to be is fast, okay? So he's got basically 1 job to do. He needs 1 stat to do it. He's a phenomenal champ, okay? And when I say 1 job to do, I mean arena, PvP. He fills 2 very important roles. Excellent, excellent champ. So think about the kit, how it applies to what content, how well they're going to be able to do the job, and that's based on their stats, that's based on their cooldowns, that's based on their chance to land, things like that. So that's really it. It's just going to come with experience. There's no magic thing I can tell you where now you all of a sudden know if every champ is good or not. It's going to come with experience, but hopefully that gives you an outline. Hopefully you don't feel lost when you pull a champ, because I know when you're newer, again, you're just overwhelmed. There's so much information to learn, and it can be hard to even slow down and think about which direction to head in with certain things. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an outline. Look at their base stats, look at their skills, decide what they're bringing to which fights, right? Get familiar with all the different content in the game, what you need for that content, and then you can start to decide if a skill kit compiles enough of those things to be useful, or compiles one of those things in a way that is useful even though it's only the one thing, like Outlaw Monk, who really only does poisons and gives himself an extra turn occasionally. That's enough. That's enough to be good for clan boss at certain stages of the game. So, you know, I wish that there was a way for me to just unlock it for you, but that's the best I can come up with and the most simplified. I've actually shot this video a couple times, and the first time I did it, there was like 10 things on the list, and I was like, this is too many. This is too much. I'm talking too much. I'm spreading this out too much. So I tried to consolidate it into 3 things. Base stats, skills, what are they bringing to which fight? Those are the 3 bullet points I want you to think about when you're analyzing a champ. So hopefully that helped you plan it out a little bit better, and you have a little bit of an idea of at least how to approach it. Again, it's really just going to come with experience, much like artifact management. So that's going to do it for this portion of the video. Now I'm going to get into the actually going through and analyzing a bunch of different champs and deciding whether or not they're good. So if you want to stick around for that, that's what we're going to be doing now. If not, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. So let's go ahead and get into it. We talked about Turval, we talked about Rosin. Let's talk about why I think Fushan is such a good champ. Maybe my favorite. Fushan's one of my favorite champs in the game. I'm a real big fan of this dude. So let's talk about him. He's an attack champ. He's got good base HP for an attacker. He's got solid enough base attack. He's got good base defense for an attacker. His base speed is excellent. 106 is excellent base speed. With base stats like this, I can pretty much accomplish whatever I want to accomplish as far as reaching certain thresholds with his stats, right? I can do whatever I want to do with him because all these are going to scale pretty well. Now, let's talk about his skills. Attacks one enemy, 25% chance of placing an extra hit. Not a lot to unpack there. Second skill, attacks all enemies 2 times. Each hit has a 20% chance of placing a stun debuff for 2 turns. I've got him skilled up. He is very reliable with this stun. When I was using him in my arena team, it was not uncommon for him to stun everybody on the team. When I'm running through dungeons, it's not uncommon for him to stun everybody in the waves. It's a very reliable stun. So here we've got AoE crowd control, okay? Third skill, attacks 4 times at random. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a defense break for 2 turns. Now, random skills can be hit or miss. If it spreads it out on the waves, great. Where this really shines is where there's one target. So a dungeon boss, clan boss, something like that. Because it's going to hit that person 4 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a defense break. It's gonna land. I don't know if I've ever seen him use this skill and not land a defense break. It's going to land. And then here, he's got a speed lead in all battles. This kit is so diverse. This kit does so many different things. There's, as I said, he was my first legendary that I pulled. There is not content in this game I don't take him to. Only when I pulled Lissandra did I replace him in arena. But I use him in clan boss. I use him in every dungeon. I used him in arena. Of course, I use him in faction wars. There's nowhere I can't take this dude. He's bringing something to every bit of content in this game, if only for the speed lead, right? Speed, as I said, speed is very important. Speed kills. 24% speed to everybody on the team is crazy, right? Very useful. But on top of that, he's bringing a defense break. So that's why I can use him in clan boss, because he's 1, bringing a speed R for the whole team, and 2, he's keeping a defense break up on the boss. I've got his masteries done. So sometimes he's landing the defense break for 3 turns. That happens pretty frequently, and it's on a 3-turn cooldown. And he's he's turn cycling faster than the clan boss. It's basically a permanent defense break at this point for clan boss, as well as any dungeon boss in any fight that's going on for any extended amount of time. He's keeping a defense break up. Here we've got the AoE stun, which again is great for arena. great for waves and dungeons. And then here, this does pretty good damage actually. I'm surprised how much damage this actually does, especially on War Master. So I have him on War Master, right? Yeah. So this is an example of a kit that is so diverse and so useful. And again, I can accomplish whatever I want to accomplish with him. He's got good enough base HP that if I want to make him tanky, which you can see I kind of go with a hybrid build here, because I use him everywhere. I will probably change him up at some point now that I don't use him in Arena anymore because of Lissandra. But I can do whatever I want to do with him. If I want him to be pure tank, pure stay in the fight as long as possible and keep those debuffs up, I can do that. If I want to go damage, I certainly have that ability because his base attack is good. It's going to scale well. As you can see, even with a hybrid build, his stats aren't bad. If I went pure attack on him, that attack would be way higher. But you think about everything I'm accomplishing, I'm hitting all three of these stats and they're all decent enough, as well as having good speed and good accuracy. So everything on him scales really well, tons of utility. Fushan's an example of an excellent champ. There's few places you couldn't take him and get something out of him, okay? Let's see, who's an example of someone who's not good? Let's talk about Rowan, because I think I had mixed feelings about Rowan. So Rowan's an epic attack champ, very good base speed. We know that the attack is probably going to scale well, so we could go to the index and look at her attack. I bet her attack gets up to like 1400 when she's maxed out though. What is she, probably Sacred Order? What is Rowan, do we know? There. It's almost 1500, so yeah, it scales up quite a bit. So we've got some decent base stats here. Again, we've got good base HP on the attack. We've got good base attack, and then very low base defense, which kind of negates the high base HP, to be honest. And then good base speed. So let's take a look at the kit and see why I haven't prioritized Rowan. First skill, attacks one enemy. 50% chance of placing a heal reduction. Damage increases according to speed. Oh, fully ascended. So it's a full heal block. Okay. Damage increases according to speed. I like that mechanic. I like damage increases according to speed. The problem with this skill is that it's heal block, right? This makes her useful in Spirit Keep. If she gets this up when it doesn't have block debuffs up. Another problem with this is that it would be great in Fire Knight. Heal reduction is important for Fire Knight, but it's not a multi-hit. So it's like we're on the brink of something nice here, but it's just not there. Not really there yet. Second skill, attacks 3 times at random. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing a stun. So we've got some potential mild crowd control in Waves or Arena if you wanted to use her there. But again, it's not super reliable, and you know, there's not a lot going on there. Then here, attacks one enemy 4 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a poison debuff for 2 turns. So here we've got an example of a skill that's not bad. This could be really nice for Clan Boss. The problem is that nothing else she's doing is good for Clan Boss. If her first skill was also a multi-hit, I think that totally changes how good she is. If the first skill is a multi-hit, she becomes an excellent Fire Knight champ. She's a decent Fire Knight champ with these two, but you have to understand these are going to go on cooldown. You can get this down to 4 turn, and this is 4 turn. So there's going to be a pretty big period of time where she's just using this skill. But for Clan Boss, this could be fantastic, but she brings nothing else to a Clan Boss fight. See what I'm saying? Again, these could be decent for Fire Knight, but that's the crutch. That's what cripples her a little bit for that. So Rowan's an example of a champ who's like on the brink. She's close. Could you build her and get something out of her? Sure. Like, she's not a terrible champ. She just doesn't bring enough to any given fight for me to feel like I need to build her. You know, maybe for someone else's champ box, it would make sense to build her. It doesn't really make sense for me to build her. I'm not getting enough out of her. You know, it's not enough for just this. It's not enough, you know, in a very specific comp. Yeah, could I run her with a Pain Keeper or something in Clan Boss so that she could get back around to this more frequently? Sure. I just, you know, I need a little bit more. If this was a defense break instead of a heal reduction, then we're in business. Then we can talk, right? Then she's bringing a lot to a fight. Now we've got a first turn defense break to take to the dungeons. We've got some mild crowd control in the waves, and then we've got a lot of poison she can stack on the boss while we're in the dungeon fight. So like one small adjustment like that takes her from being in my vault to getting built and used in dungeons, okay? But she's just not bringing enough to any given fight right now. So she's an example of a champ who's like almost there, but just not quite there. Let's see, who else can we talk about? Let's talk about Doom Priest. Doom Priest is a fantastic champ. First skill, attacks one enemy. If the hit is critical, places a crit rate buff on an ally for 2 turns. Not relevant. not relevant. Here she attack buffs the whole team. This is nice. Whatever. This is why she's good. She's got a passive that every turn she removes a debuff from everybody on the team. And she heals them. So she heals the whole team by 7.5% of their HP and removes a debuff. This is incredibly useful. Doesn't matter what the rest of her kit is. It really doesn't. This is the main reason she's useful. As long as you keep her tanky enough to stay in the fight and fast enough to turn cycle as much as possible, she's going to keep debuffs off your team. And give a little bit of a passive heal. So somewhere like Ice Golem, for example, where the 2 minions are putting heal block and defense break on you. The more turns you can get your Doom Priest, the better job she's going to do at keeping those off of you, which lets the rest of your team do their job. It lets your supports heal, and it keeps you from getting one-shotted, right? Because that defense break can be nasty in the higher levels of Ice Golem. So this alone makes Doom Priest a fantastic champ. You can take her into Dragons. She's going to help keep some of those poisons off of you. You take her into the potion keeps. She's going to help speed your runs up potentially by, you know, force keep. He puts that attack break on you. She can keep that off so you can continue to do good damage. This is incredible. So it really doesn't matter what the rest of her kit is. And then force, ally speed, whatever. But this alone is enough to be a very good support champ because it's not a skill to use. It's not on a cooldown. It happens every time she gets a turn. So the big goal here, you build her basically like you build Apothecary. As fast as possible, as tanky as possible. Excellent, excellent champ. Brings a ton of utility to a fight, even with just this. This is incredibly useful. Great support, okay? Madame Cirrus. Madame Cirrus is competing with Fushan for my new favorite champ in the game, to be honest. She is just ridiculously good. So, first skill, attacks one enemy, has a 20% chance of placing a fear debuff for 1 turn, and then it increases if they have debuffs on them already. Cool. Fear is a fun little random debuff. Whatever. Second skill is an AoE, 40% chance of stealing a random buff from each target. Also places block debuffs on the whole team for 2 turns if any buff is stolen. So she's hitting the whole enemy team. She has a 40% chance of stealing a buff on everybody, which all but guarantees she's going to strip a buff. If the whole team has buffs, she's going to get one of them, right? So she's going to do that. If she takes 1 buff off of anyone, she's putting block debuffs on your whole team for 2 turns, and then anybody that gets a buff stolen, she's going to place True Fear on them for 1 turn. That's a lot going on in one skill, man. That's really, really nice. Really, really nice little skill. And then her third skill is really just where it just gets absolutely bonkers, man. It's a full strip. She removes all buffs from all enemies. Then she puts the 50% attack break and the 60% defense break on all enemies for 3 turns. That is absurd. That is so strong. That is such a strong skill in Arena in particular, but it's also really nice in waves. 3 turn attack break and defense break. That means you're negating any damage that the enemies are going to do to you in the waves of the dungeons, because attack break is nice, but there are some waves that have defense scaling champs, and vice versa. Defense break is nice, but obviously there's champs that scale on attack. She's cutting the damage in half, basically, on everybody. So it's going to really ensure that you're able to make it through the waves in the dungeons. It's going to really help you push through the waves. It's going to keep buffs off of them. She's got the fear and true fear, which is going to potentially keep them from taking turns sometimes. And she's just setting your team up to do so much. It is absolutely crazy. Then to top it off, she's got the passive when she's ascended that she gets a shield buff equal to 10% of her HP at the start of every turn. If she gets attacked while she's got a shield up, she's got a chance of placing fear. She's doing so much. She's doing so much. She is such a good champ for arena and dungeons. I'm gonna put her to use in dungeons when I'm able to get her ascended. I'm waiting on the forest or the void dungeon to open, but we're gonna get her ascended by the end of the weekend. And I'm really, I gotta get her. I haven't even done her masteries yet, but when I got her, I was using her at 4-star level 1. All I did was put gear on her, because all she really needed for what I want to do with her right now is speed and accuracy. I just need her to fit into my cleave. She's absolutely insane. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about, let me just show you what she looks like in arena real quick. Keep in mind, she was doing this at level 1, 4-star. Just absolutely crazy. They don't have any buffs to strip, but imagine that they had like heavy shield buffs on right now, right? Ridiculous. She would have stripped any buffs they had. That means block debuffs, that means shield, anything they had on him that's a buff, she's gonna take it off. And no one's surviving that. No one's living through that. It's crazy. As long as I'm faster, we're good. She's such a good champ. So if you pull a champ and they've got something like this going on, like what she's got going on, she is fantastic. Her base stats, 100 speed. She's got good, higher than average base speed. She's just so good. Let's move on and talk about Apothecary. Let's talk about Seducer. Why not? First skill, Sleep. That could be nice crowd control. He is a defense champ that scales off defense, so you can get a little bit of damage out of him. So we've got some first turn crowd control potentials, which is not bad. It's a nice little bonus. Be better if it was a stun or a freeze, but you take what you can get. Second skill, AoE, 75% chance of placing an attack break. So we've got an AoE attack break. So this is an example of a champ where you think, how could I get more out of this, right? AoE attack break. Well, a great way to get more out of it is put him on a taunting set. So now he's got potential to taunt everybody and put the attack break on him. Which means if you make him tanky, he's going to hit everybody, potentially break the attack, potentially taunt, draw the attacks to him. He'll be able to take the hits. And if he landed the attack break, it'll make it that much easier for him to take the hit. So that's an example of thinking, like, how could I make a champ maybe even better than they are, right? What's the potential? What could they accomplish with certain sets? Stun sets on AoE champs are nice. Taunt sets on situations like this are really nice. So something else to consider. Places 30% defense buff on all allies and a block debuff on all allies for 2 turns. That can get down to a 3-turn cooldown. So you get him fast enough, it's borderline permanent. You put him on a reflex set, maybe maybe he gets around to this and he keeps it up permanently. Run him with a pain keeper if you've got one. There's some things you could think about for synergy there, but lots of stuff going on. And then ally protection on all allies for 2 turns and a block damage buff on this champ for 2 turns. That's only available when Temptress is on the same team. But if we just look at his 3 skills, it's nice. It all kind of makes sense together. He's very clearly for support, even though it says he's a defense champ. He's bringing a lot of support to the team, and his attacks do scale on defense. So again, there's a little bit of potential for damage here. So we've got some random, little bit of random crowd control here. Depending on who he hits, you could potentially put him to sleep. Here we've got the AoE attack break. You can put a taunt set on that and add a ton of utility to that skill. And then some nice buffs here, the defense buff and the block debuff. So he's going to be a great dungeon champ, right? He's going to really help you out in the waves. The block debuffs is really nice for Dragon in particular, but it's nice everywhere. But we've got a lot of utility here. And Stu is one that really made Seducer popular. I think a lot of people were sleeping on Seducer. And Stu showed him some love and kind of let everybody know, like, hey, this dude's good. So you know, the kit makes sense. It's a solid kit. He's got good enough base stats, easy to scale, good base defense, solid base HP, easy enough to build, right? So I don't... We'll look at one more. Let's look at one more. Let's talk about why Skullcrown's good. Average base speed, base attack's up there. Her base attack's higher than Turval, who's a Void Legendary. Really good base attack, decent enough base HP. We know that everything she does is AoE. So AoE places an extra hit if the target has more than 50% HP. Second skill, 50% chance of placing a weaken. We don't really care about the weaken. Can be nice, but we don't really care about it. Unkillable buff if she drops below 20%. And then if Sinesha's on the same team, she revives when she dies. So why is she good? Well, because everything she does is AoE, so this opens up some possibilities here. She's going to be good in spiders. She's going to be a great farmer. She's a good nuker in arena. There's a lot of places you can take this champ. Even though there's not a ton going on in the kit, so to speak, you know, she's got a weaken, but she has all AoE. That's nice. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with her. She's also an attacker, so you know her multipliers are going to be decent. She's got good base attack, so you know it's going to scale well. And then you got a little bit of insurance here with this for like you know, I'm sure you've all seen the Skull Crown on arena defense that you kill everybody else on the team and get her down to 1 HP, and then she turns around and nukes your whole team out. You know, we've all been there, so that's a nice little bonus. But you know, exclusive AoE skills, there's some places that she's automatically going to be good, right? Spider, campaign farming, arena nuker, stuff like that. So, oh, and to top it off, you've got the speed lead in the arena if you don't have another speed lead. So, solid champ all around. So, I think we bounced around and checked out a few different types of champs. I don't want to just, you know, make you sit here and watch me do that all day, but hopefully you got something out of that. Again, it's a little bit of a complicated thing to just say like, oh, it's this easy, just do it this way. But taking into consideration the stats, the skills, what they're bringing to what content in the game, how they might synergize with other champs, you know, all of that stuff, hopefully helps you head in the right direction with figuring that out. So I hope this one was helpful. I feel just as, you know, hesitant about this one as I did about the artifact video, but you know, you guys gave really good feedback on the artifact video, so I hope this one goes just as well. I hope this one helps you guys out and you know, maybe point some of you in the direction of getting closer to being able to just glance at a champ and decide if they're good, and maybe find some of those sleeper champs in the game that no one has found yet. You know, find some champs to experiment with and play around with, and you know, maybe you'll figure out something that no one else has figured out yet. So I hope it was helpful. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.